على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be in the aid and help and support of our brothers and sisters in Palestine and everywhere else in the Muslim world. Allah give shifa to those who are sick and keep us under His protection with our families, our children, and all of our Muslim brothers and sisters everywhere. So these are important ayat about muamalat. Surah Nahl in the beginning was talking about, of course, Surah Nahl, as we mentioned, is mainly Makkiyah, and it talks a lot about the ni'am of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon us. And then from ayah number 19, Allah ya'muru bil adli wal ihsan, and we did this last week. Now it talks about muamalat, the way we treat each other. So normally, Allah mentioned His favors upon us and the rizq that He gives us. And now He's talking about the way we treat each other. Because sometimes we do injustice to get that rizq, which is guaranteed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's why we should be focused on the Creator, the one who gives rizq, not on the creation, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guaranteed our rizq. So here, this talks about one thing, unfortunately, we used to be better at that before, which is keeping the promises. Many times we don't look at it as a big deal. So وَأَوْفُوا بِعَهْدِ اللَّهِ إِذَا عَاهَدتُّمْ. Fulfill the promise of Allah. Now, why would you say if you make a promise? Isn't it enough to say fulfill the promise of Allah? Why you say if you make a promise? Because don't make a promise and use Allah's name unless it's serious. إِذَا عَاهَدْتُمْ, if you really needed to make a promise and say by Allah, that's why Allah adds this part, إِذَا عَاهَدْتُمْ. Because the ulama, they say you are moving something from being mustahab or halal mubah into something that became mandatory fard. Give you an example. Now let's say I say to Brother Hadi, I'll see you tomorrow, inshallah. Right? We do that. This is halal for me to say. Right? That's mustahab, or we say mubah. Permissible. Permissible. Tomorrow I'll see you, inshallah. But if I say I promise, I will see you tomorrow. Wallahi is even next step. Some people say wallahi for no reason. What did you eat yesterday? Biryani, wallahi. Okay, I believe you. Why I don't believe you? By the way, those who say wallahi a lot, that means they lie a lot. Anyone who says wallahi a lot because he thinks people suspects that he's always lying. So he say wallahi all the time. But anyway, and I notice now to youth, the youth especially, they say wallah all the time. The youth say wallah. Well, why you say wallah? You don't believe me? I'm not going to say wallah. This is a problem, taking Allah's name so lightly. But when I move it from saying I will see you tomorrow inshallah to as I promise, I moved something from being mubah, permissible, into fard. Now I have to fulfill the promise. Why if you don't really have to? This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying إِذَا عَاهَدْتُمْ, which means don't do that unless you really have to. Some people use Allah's name lightly for no reason. Don't make promises for no reason. Say, you said to your child, and we make that mistake a lot, I'll make you a toy, inshallah. I'll buy you a toy. Or I promise. There's a big difference. And a lot of us use it in the wrong way. You said to your child, if you pass the test, if you get an A, I'm going to buy you it. And then he passes the test and you don't buy him anything. Don't we do that sometimes? And Allah forgive us. And now we are teaching our children to lie too. So, وَأَوْفُوا, the wafa, wa Ibrahim alladhi wafa, is to complete something to the best of your ability. وَأَوْفُوا بِعَهْدِ اللَّهِ إِذَا عَاهَدْتُمْ. So whenever you do that, and it has to be a good reason why you are using Allah's name, and if you do that, then make sure you complete that ahd. You do it to the best of your ability, this oath. وَلَا تَنْقُضُوا الْأَيْمَانَ بَعْدَ تَوْكِيدِهَا. Do not, naqada is to untie a knot. We have naqada and nakatha. Nakatha is more like to make something loose. Naqada is to completely, so it starts with nakatha and naqada. The scholars say they are similar. But anyhow, why do we say the promise? Why do we call it yameen? Right. Right? They say yameen is qasam, yameen. Right. What does right have to do with swearing? They say in the Jahiliyyah, they used to shake their hands, the right hand, when they swear, when they promise each other something, they shake their right hand. Some say because the right hand is more dominant than the left hand. So Yameen means more powerful qasam. That's where the word yamin came from. So do not untie, break this yameen. So yameen is like this knot. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls it sometimes mithaq. أخذنا منكم ميثاقا غليظا. Mithaq is when you make a knot in the rope. So when you break your promise, it's like you're untying this, and it shouldn't be easy. There are three types of yameen. We just go over this fiqh point quickly. Three types of yameen. The promise we make in fiqh has three categories. We have first lahu, yameen al-lahu, and we have yameen al-kaffara, and we have yameen al-ghamus. So we have yameen al-lahu, yameen al-kaffara, and then yameen al-ghamus. Not gamus, al-ghamus with a ghayn. غموس تغمس صاحبها في جهنم والعياذ بالله. So the first yameen, yameen al-laghu, this is yameen which we just give an example. Say wallah. Something that's not important. It became a form of speech. It's normal speech. We don't mean wallah. Like wallah, I love you. I'm not saying this to Brother Hadi. I love him, but I don't have to say wallah, I love you. This is laghu. It's not, people don't take it as you are swearing by Allah. Right? It's called yaminul lahu. It's a form of speech. Like, wallah, I love biryani. Wallah, I want to buy a Lamborghini one day. Inshallah. So this is just a speech. Yani. You don't mean that you are making a promise. This is called yamin al-lahu. Allah says, لا يؤاخذكم الله باللغو في أيمانكم. You don't have to do anything about this yamin. And if you break this, because it's not really you're not promising anything. The second one, yamin al-kaffara. When you do make a promise and you say, Wallahi, I'm going to do something, but then you couldn't do it. Or you found that actually, if you break your promise, it is better. Like the Prophet ﷺ, you know the story of Zainab radiallahu anha, and Hafsa and Aisha about the maghafir and about the asal. The Prophet said, Wallahi, I will not eat it anymore. And then Allah says, قَدْ فَرَضَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ تَحِلَّةَ أَيْمَانِكُم. Now, Yamin al-Kaffara, and this is a big mistake people make, by the way. If you say Wallahi to do something, because if this Yamin needs a Kaffara, and if you couldn't do it, then what should you do? That's a common mistake. People always say, fast 3 days, right? Fast 3 days is not the first thing you do. You feed 10 masakin, or kiswatuhum, or you give them clothing. If you couldn't do this, then you free a slave. Our time is not maybe available. If you couldn't do this, then you fast 3 days. You don't start by the end. It's an order. So if you break your promise, this yamin al-kaffara, you have to feed 10 poor people, and if you couldn't, then you free a slave, and if you couldn't, you fast 3 days. You don't start from the other way around. So وَلَا تَنْقُضُوا الْأَيْمَانَ بَعْدَ تَوْكِيدِهَا. After you have made an emphasis, by Allah, I'm going to do this. Of course, the third type of yamin called the yamin al-ghamus. This is when somebody uses Allah's name to change halal and haram, to change haqq and batil. Like, for example, the false testimony in the court. But wallahi, I saw him doing that. So the haqq goes to the wrong person. And you know you're lying. This is the yamin al-ghamus. Somebody, sometimes somebody wants to cheat. Wallahi, I bought this item for 1,000 And by the way, this is very common in my country. That merchant swears by Allah 10 times that this deal he's losing money, he's not making money. And he's making so much money. He said, do Hajj at the end of the year and it's good. And this is the mentality, subhanAllah. They swear to you 100 times that they are losing money in this deal and they're lying, of course. This is yamin al-ghamus. Ghamus means when you dip something, say ghammasa, when we normally use it for when you eat food, the beans, you put it with this, like you dip something, because this yamin will dip whoever says it in hellfire. This is a big deal. This yamin, this is a big deal. This is no kafara for this one. You have to do tawbah and you have to ask Allah for forgiveness, and it's a long process. And if you have given the haqq to somebody else, you have to go and admit. Of course, if somebody falsely testify, even without yamin, that's a major sin. إياكم وشهادة الزور. But with the yamin, it makes it worse. And here, of course, in the United States, when you go to court, they don't say wallahi. But in our countries, they do, right? In Bangladesh and Syria, and when you go to the court, you say wallahi, I'm telling the truth. ولا تنقضوا الأيمان بعد توكيدها وقد جعلتم الله عليكم كفيلا. When you say by Allah, you're saying Allah is my guarantor. He is the one who guarantees that what I'm saying is true. And that's why it's a big deal. You cannot use Allah's name lightly and then you be lying and saying Allah is my witness that this happened. So this is very bad. وقد جعلتم الله عليكم كفيلا إن الله يعلم ما تفعلون. Allah indeed knows what you're doing. Some people use this for I saw the other brother, something funny happened. He was watching a show on TV saying how bad meat for your body is. Meat. So wallahi, I'm gonna eat only vegetables. I'm gonna become vegetarian. Next day, somebody brings him some nice juicy burger. He forget about the wallahi and everything. Burger that was. I don't think it was a biryani. But anyway, the thing is, don't say wallahi for no reason. You can say, okay, from now on, I am, inshallah, planning not to eat meat. This is mubah. When you say wallahi, no, it's a big deal. Don't use Allah's name easy like that. إن الله يعلم ما تفعلون. ولا تكونوا كالتي نقضت غزلها من بعد قوة أنكاثا تتخذون إيمانكم دخلا بينكم. Now this is an interesting story here. There was a lady, Ruwayda bint Amir, her name, Ruwayda bint Amir. They used to call her Hamqa'u Quraysh, the stupid lady of Quraysh. Because she was stupid. She was rich and she was bored. What she used to do, she gathers all the ladies in her house and she pays them money for that. And they start knitting, making the wool into a thread. Normally, this is how you start making clothes. First, you get the wool and whatever you get from the animal, and then you make it into threads. And then after you make it into threads, you can make it into something to wear. So at their time, they didn't have machines like today. Most of the things they do with their own hands, and they put one thing inside the other. It's very hard. It takes a long time. So from Fajr to Dhuhr, these ladies working so hard, non-stop to make these threads. After they finish, he says, okay, let's undo them all. Let's return them the way it was, from Dhuhr to Maghrib. And she does that every day. She makes threads and she unties them and goes. Every day she's undoing her. She does work and she undoes it. Every day. I heard a funny example the other day. People want it in one country, and these things, by the way, it might sound like a joke, but it happens in our countries, and Allah al-Musta'an. They wanted to make new pipes for the water under the ground. So they brought three groups of people. They said to the first group, you dig, you make the hole. The second group, you put the pipes. The third group, you close it, right? You put cement and you close it. The next day, the second group did not show up. So the first group dug, and the third group closed it. And nothing happened. Because the one that was supposed to put the pipe is not there. So that happens sometimes. It's kind of funny. It happens. They dig, nothing happens, and then they close it. And then they do that again the next day. because the second group did not show up. So this is what this lady is doing. She's doing all the work during the day, and at the end of the day, she undoes everything. She undoes everything. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, when you are breaking your promise, this is what you're doing. This is the example Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us. When you do not follow up with your promise, this is what you do. Now, what is the similarity between the story and breaking your promise? You are undoing something. Now, normally, why do we break our promise? Why do we even sometimes swear for the dunya? Allah is telling us you don't get barakah out of it. You are undoing your work. When you promise falsely, you're undoing your work. And He's giving us an example. تَتَّخِذُونَ أَيْمَانَكُمْ دَخَلًا بَيْنَكُمْ. You use these promises. دخل is to enter, right? دخلا بينكم. When you add something to your merchandise, which looks the same as the item, but has less value, and you sell it all for the same value. Like somebody who adds water to the milk, right? There was a funny story. I don't know, people are falling asleep. Let me wake them up. This funny story. One guy, a merchant, he boarded a ship. And normally, people in the past, when they board the ship, they take their animals with them. Like if you have a camel or you have something, you put it somewhere. One guy brought a monkey with him. I don't know what do you want with the monkey, but anyway, he brought a monkey with him. Another merchant was sitting there counting his money, his coins. There was no paper bills, money. It was all coins. So the monkey came, ran, and he took the whole bag, the sack of the gold, the coins, and he climbed all the way up the sail, all the way up. And the guy starts screaming, whose monkey is this? Give me my money back from the monkey. The monkey starts looking at the coin. He throws one in the sea and one back to the owner of the money. One in the sea and one until the bag all finished, the sack all finished. And the monkey came down. The guy starts crying, and this guy threw half of the coins in the sea, and he gave him back half. What happened? So there was one intelligent guy on the ship. He said, "What do you do for a living?" He said, "I sell milk." He said, "Do you add water?" He said, "Yes, 50-50." He said, "Fine, you got 50 back, your money." That's why you've got the 50%, and the other 50% went back in the water. So this is تَتَّخِذُونَ إِيمَانَكُمْ دَخَلًا بَيْنَكُمْ, and it's very common in the Muslim countries when the merchants swear by Allah, this is all good item, good. If you go, by the way, and I remember this, when I was young, I used to go with my father, Allah give him Jannah, to the market to buy, let's say, grapes. So you go, and they have these boxes. They don't let you pick what you want. They say, we'll put in the bag, don't worry. The surface is, mashallah, beautiful. But the down, different story. So when you're not looking, they put one from the bottom. You take one from the top, they put one from the bottom. And then they tell you that all are top quality, mashallah. So this is dakhalan baynakum. You swear by Allah, I'm telling you the truth. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying this, the items you get through this, or the profit you make through this way, there is no halal and no barakah. Just like this person who's working hard to make the thread and then untying the thread, just like that. أن تكون أمة هي أربى من أمة. What will that cause? What will happen when people do this? When people do this, when you go to the merchant, and you know this merchant is cheating, and he's swearing by Allah that, no, I'm not cheating. Some people will gain more money than the others, right? If somebody is, of course, there's no barakah in it, but the way it is. And then what will happen after that? People will not trust each other. Whose people are known for that? They used to always cheat. It's in the Quran. To the point that it's funny. He goes to the market, he buys stuff, and he knows that they cheated him, but he has a shop too. When they come, he will cheat them back. So they'll be the same thing. Who are we talking about? Not mutaffifin. People of which prophet? Shu'aib, right? Shu'aib, أوفوا الكيل والميزان بالقسط. So this is the problem of the people of Shu'aib. They used to always cheat with the scales. إنما يبلوكم الله به. So this is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to tell the truth, to be honest, and to make the halal way. And you have barakah this way, better than lying. وَلَيُبَيِّنَنَّ لَكُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ مَا كُنْتُمْ فِيهِ تَخْتَلِفُونَ. And he shall show you on the day of judgment and clarify to you what you used to be having dispute about. The reason why Allah is mentioning this is we have a problem sometimes in many Muslim countries. We do something that is wrong, but we try to justify it. Everybody's doing it. That does not make it halal. Or like the police officer, when they stop you because you're speeding, they want to bribe, or they will find a mistake. They will find a mistake in your car to give you a ticket if you don't give them money. And then when you tell them this is haram, bribe, rashwa, they tell you, but my salary at the end of the month is not good enough. I have to make it up. And they find always a way. I was having this discussion with the doctor. No doctors here, alhamdulillah, I can say whatever I want. I said, why you doctors take some out, Dr. Like? But anyway, he's not paying attention.
Yeah.
So, why you make so much money? And you charge so, but you see the patients for 500 for 5 seconds and you take $500. Not all of them are like that. So he said, well, because we studied so long and we make so you take my money. How is that my fault? If you studied so long, you want to make it up for what you work hard for. The point here is we justify these things to ourselves. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying He will tell you on the day of judgment. ما كنتم فيه تختلفون. He will make it clear to you, this dispute that you used to have. Especially, see, Surah Nahl focuses a lot on the muamalat between us. إن الله يأمر بالعدل. Be just. Be just when you treat each other. ولو شاء الله لجعلكم أمة واحدة. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted, He could have made you all one ummah. Ummah means guided, not misguided. If Allah wanted all of mankind to worship Him, He could have forced everybody. Now, how is this related to the mu'amalat? If Allah wants you to do the right thing, He can force you. But when you're cheating the people and taking the rights of the people, He's looking. If He wants to stop you, He can. But He made that rule, and He's going to delay you until the day of judgment. ولكن يضل من يشاء ويهدي من يشاء. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala misguides whoever He wills, and He guides whoever He wills. Of course, people normally don't understand the ayah, and they say, how is it my fault? Allah misguided me. Allah saying He misguides whoever He wills, right? And He guides whoever He wills. So how do we answer those people who say, how is it my fault? Allah misguided me. Well, He allowed you to be misguided, because you cannot be misguided without His permission. You want to be misguided, and He let it happen. Because some people want to be misguided, but Allah does not let them misguided. We see that a lot in the past. People who wants to be bad, they want to be bad. They want to be misguided. Allah guides them by force. This happens. You cannot be misguided or guided except by Allah's permission. So when Allah says يُضِلُّ مَن يَشَاء, He allows those who want to be misguided to be misguided. Another thing is, those who say, Allah misguided me, that I shouldn't go to hellfire. What about the other side? They say Allah guided me, it's not me, so I shouldn't go to Jannah. You should work both ways, right? If you're going to look at it from one perspective, you have to look from the other side. If somebody says Allah misguided me, I shouldn't go to hellfire, then the other person should say, it's not me, Allah guided me, then I shouldn't go to Jannah. Right? So both ways, yani. And the other thing which I like, this proverb or pronoun, يُضِلُّ مَن يَشَاء. He misguides whoever He wills. We have to He. The first He is Allah. The second He is the person. Allah misguides whoever wants to be misguided. And Allah guides whoever wants to be guided. Makes sense? Yudillu, Allah misguides, man yasha, whoever wants to be misguided. And Allah guides whoever wants to be guided. But that does not mean it is okay. وَلَا تُسْأَلُنَّ عَمَّا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. You indeed, this is okay, you shall be asked about what you used to do. So you cannot say Allah chose for me to be misguided, it's not my fault. He will ask you, why did you do this? Did anybody force you to come today to the Fajr? Did somebody, you wake up with somebody with a gunpoint, go to Fajr at Masjid Bilal? Did that happen? Did anybody force you to stay in the Quran session? Many people left. They could have stayed. So this is guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's yani, we do have the intention, right? And Allah makes it happen. And this is to be guided. Same thing with the misguided person. He has the intention to be misguided, and Allah let it happen. Because it cannot happen without Allah's permission. But on the day of judgment, everybody will be asked about what they used to do. And we said the other time, when the Prophet ﷺ was asked, how is Allah going to talk to all people on the day of judgment at the same time? Because Allah will call everybody to account on the day of judgment, every single person. And the Prophet ﷺ says, the one who gives them rizq all every day, every single person will talk to all of them at the same time. For Allah is not hard. May Allah accept from all of us. And still, by the way, the next few ayat, still talking about the same topic, keeping the promises. And ayah number 97 might need a session by itself, inshallah. Ayah number 97, we probably have to have a session by itself for it. It's a beautiful ayah, very powerful, inshallah. Okay, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika.